Rain lashes against Sarah Mitchell's windshield as she drives home from another 12-hour shift. The single mother of two can barely keep her eyes open, dreaming of the warm bed waiting at home. Then she sees it, twisted metal gleaming in. Her headlights steam rising from a mangled luxury SUV that's wrapped around a tree. Inside, two small figures stir weakly. Without hesitation, Sarah plunges into the storm. She doesn't know these children belong to tech billionaire James Harrison, or that security cameras are recording every second. She doesn't know this moment will be shared millions of times, or that tomorrow she'll wake up to find her simple act of courage has captured the world's imagination. Before we jump back in, don't tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Just how far will this chance encounter push two families from opposite worlds? Keep watching to find out. Sarah Mitchell's hands trembled as she sorted through the stack of bills on her kitchen table, the worn edges of each envelope telling their own story of worry and postponement. The harsh, fluorescent light above cast shadows across past due notices and final warnings, a monthly ritual she'd grown accustomed to since Mark's death 3 years ago. Her nursing aid's salary at Pine Grove Care Center barely covered the essentials, let alone the mounting medical bills from Jenny's asthma treatments. "Mom, did you eat anything?" 15-year-old David's voice carried from the cramped living room of their two-bedroom apartment. He had his father's protective instincts, always, watching out for her, even though she was supposed to be the one taking care of him. "I had a sandwich at work, honey." The lie came easily after years of practice. Better to skip a meal than let her children go without. David didn't need to know she'd given her lunch to Mrs. Henderson, an elderly resident who hadn't touched her hospital food in days. Jenny appeared in the doorway, her dark curls wild from sleep, inhaler clutched in her small hand. At 12, she was already too familiar with the weight of their circumstances. "The heat's not working again, Mom," Sarah sighed, adding another item to her mental list of things they couldn't afford to fix. "Grab the extra blankets from my closet, sweetie. We'll manage tonight." She forced a smile, the kind that didn't quite reach her eyes but seemed to reassure her children nonetheless. The apartment walls were thin enough to hear the neighbors arguing next door, their voices a familiar backdrop to their evening routine. Sarah gathered the bills into a neat pile, tucking them into the drawer where she kept all their financial worries hidden. The drawer was getting fuller, but her solutions were running thin. Her phone buzzed with a text from her supervisor at Pine Grove. Another double shift available tomorrow. Her body ached from today's 12 hours of lifting, turning, and tending to residents, but she couldn't afford to turn down the extra hours. Not with Jenny's prescription due for refill next week. David watched her from the kitchen doorway, his teenage frame already taller than hers, shoulders carrying an invisible burden no 15-year-old should bear. "I can pick up some work after school, Mum. Mr. Rodriguez at the grocery store said they're hiring." "No, David." Sarah's voice was firm but gentle. "Your job is to study, to get those grades that'll earn you a scholarship." She crossed the small kitchen and pulled him into a hug, remembering when he was small enough to lift onto her hip. "Your father would want you focused on school." The mention of Mark hung in the air between them. His photo still held pride of place on their living room wall, a smiling man in police uniform, taken 6 months before the shooting that left Sarah a widow. The department's pension helped, but it wasn't enough to maintain the life they'd had before. Jenny's cough echoed from her bedroom, followed by the familiar wheeze of her inhaler. Sarah closed her eyes briefly, fighting back tears. Tomorrow she'd call about that clinical trial the respiratory specialist had mentioned. Maybe they'd qualify for the study, get Jenny's medication covered for a few months. The kitchen clock ticked past midnight. In 6 hours, she'd need to be back at Pine Grove, ready to start another day of caring for others while trying to hold her own world together. But for now, she allowed herself a moment at the kitchen window, watching the city lights flicker in the distance. A siren wailed somewhere in the neighborhood, and Sarah said a quiet prayer for whoever needed help tonight. She thought of her residence at Pine Grove, Mr. Chen with his stories of old Shanghai, Mrs. Peterson who saved her orange juice for David when he visited after school, gruff Mr. Sullivan who pretended not to cry when Sarah brought him pictures. Her children had drawn. They were her second family, these people she cared for day after day. Their needs, their stories, their small victories and losses had become intertwined with her own. Sometimes, on the hardest days, their smiles were enough to remind her why she kept going. Sarah gathered the last of her strength and headed to check on her children. David had fallen asleep on his textbooks again, pencil still in hand. She gently removed his glasses, covering him with the blanket they kept on the couch. In the bedroom, Jenny slept fitfully, her breathing slightly labored but steady. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges, but for now, her children were safe, warm, and dreaming of better days. Sarah Mitchell might not have much, but she had these precious moments of peace between one hard day and the next, the quiet strength of a mother's love, and the hope that somehow, someday, things would change for the better. The Forbes magazine spread lay open on James Harrison's mahogany desk, his own face staring back at him from the glossy pages. The reluctant titan, how grief reshaped Silicon Valley's most private billionaire. He hadn't wanted to do the interview, but his PR team had insisted. The public needed to see the human side of Harrison Technologies, they said, especially after Claire's death. From his penthouse office, 60 stories above Seattle's rain-slicked streets, James could see the entire city sprawled out before him like a circuit board, lights blinking in the growing dusk. Somewhere down there, his children were being driven home from their private school, accompanied by the usual security detail. Emma would be reading on her tablet, Marcus probably playing one of those educational games Claire had insisted on. Claire, even after 8 months, the absence of his wife felt like a physical wound. The magazine article had touched on it briefly. Following the tragic loss of his wife to aggressive pancreatic cancer, Harrison has retreated further from the public, focusing on his 2 young children and the revolutionary AI technology that made him one of the world's youngest tech billionaires. What the article didn't mention was how empty the 12,000-square-foot penthouse felt without Claire's laughter, how he still couldn't sleep on her side of the bed, how Emma, at 8 years old, had started mothering her 6-year-old brother, making sure he didn't forget to talk about their mom. His intercom buzzed. "Mr. Harrison, the board is waiting in the conference room." "Tell them 5 minutes, Angela." James straightened his tie, a gesture that had become almost compulsive since taking over as CEO at 26. Now, at 38, he ran an empire that had revolutionized artificial intelligence, but he still felt like that nervous kid pitching his first investors. The article continued. Despite Harrison Technologies' dominant market position, and continued innovation in the AI sector, industry insiders speculate about Harrison's increasing absence from public events. Sources close to the company suggest he's thrown himself into Project Oracle, a highly classified AI initiative that promises to fundamentally reshape human-computer interaction. James closed the magazine. They had no idea how close Project Oracle was to completion, or how personal its mission had become. Claire had helped design its core architecture, her brilliant mind contributing until her final days. Now, it was more than just revolutionary technology. It was her legacy. His phone lit up with a text from Mrs. Chen, the children's nanny. "Emma and Marcus asking if you'll be home for dinner tonight." James checked his schedule. Board meeting, 2 investor calls, quarterly projections review. "Tell them I'll try," he typed back, knowing it was probably another promise he wouldn't keep. The walls of his office were lined with awards and accolades, each one marking another milestone in his meteoric rise. 30 under 30. Innovator of the Year. Tech Visionary. Claire had insisted on displaying them, proud of his achievements even when he felt uncomfortable with the attention. Now they felt like artifacts from another life. A small screen on his desk showed the security feed from his home. Emma was helping Marcus with his homework in the kitchen, their heads bent together over textbooks. They looked so much like their mother. Emma with Claire's determined focus, Marcus with her gentle smile. The sight made his chest tighten. The article's final paragraphs speculated about Harrison Technology's future. With an estimated net worth of $78.4 billion, Harrison could easily step back from day-to-day operations. Instead, sources say he's more involved than ever, particularly in the company's charitable initiatives. The Claire Harrison Foundation, established shortly after Mrs. Harrison's passing, has already committed over $500 million to pancreatic cancer research. Another buzz from the intercom. "Sir, the board is getting restless." James stood, straightening his custom-tailored suit. The magazine had gotten one thing right. He was more involved than ever, but not for the reasons they thought. Project Oracle wasn't just another tech innovation. It was his chance to ensure his children would never feel alone. The AI would carry their mother's voice, her warmth, her wisdom. It would be his gift to them and to her memory. "Tell them I'm on my way, Angela." He took one last look at the security feed. Emma was now braiding Marcus's stuffed giraffe's hair while he giggled. Soon, he promised himself, soon he'd find a way to be the father they needed, to bridge the gap between his two worlds. But for now, there was work to be done, an empire to run and a promise to keep. "Daddy, can you see us?" Emma's face filled the tablet screen, her breath fogging the camera as she held it close. In the background, Marcus was jumping on his bed, his stuffed giraffe flying through the air. "We made something for you at school today." "That's wonderful, sweetheart." James Harrison's voice came through the tablet's speakers, his image freezing for a moment in the poor connection. "But it's getting late, and you have school tomorrow. Where's Mrs. Chen?" Thunder rattled the penthouse windows. Mrs. Chen appeared. Behind the children, her usually calm face creased with worry. "Mr. Harrison, the storm is getting worse. The power's been flickering." "I'm leaving the office now," James said, gathering his papers. "I'll be home in 20 minutes. Emma's face fell. "You always say that." The words hit him like a physical blow. "I mean it this time, Princess. Wait up for me." "We should go now, sir." His driver's voice crackled through the intercom. "Weather?" "Service issued a severe storm warning." James nodded, his attention still on the screen. "Marcus, say goodnight to Daddy." But Marcus had fallen silent, clutching his giraffe. Ever since Claire's death, storms had terrified him. Emma wrapped an arm around her little brother. "It's okay, Marcus. I'm here." The tablet screen went black as the power failed. James tried, redialing, but the connection wouldn't go through. Outside his office window, the storm was transforming Seattle into a chaos of wind and rain. 20 minutes later, his company car glided through the deserted streets, windshield wipers fighting, a losing battle against the deluge. In the back seat, James checked his phone again. "Still no signal, sir." His regular driver, Thomas, spoke up. "Main routes flooded, taking Nelson Road around the lake." James nodded absently, thinking of Marcus's fear, of Emma trying to be brave. For her brother, the car's headlights carved through sheets of rain, illuminating the narrow road that wound through dense forest. They were halfway around the lake when it happened. A massive tree branch, torn loose by the wind, crashed onto the road ahead. Thomas swerved, but the wet pavement offered no traction. The world spun in a sickening blur of rain and darkness. James felt weightless for a moment, then everything went black. He awoke to the taste of blood and the sound of breaking glass. The car had come to rest against a massive oak, driver's side crushed beyond recognition. Thomas wasn't moving. In the distance, James could hear sirens, but they seemed to be getting farther away, not closer. "Emma! Marcus!" His voice was barely a whisper, no response from the back seat. He tried to turn, but pain shot through his chest. A branch had pierced the window, pinning him to his seat. Minutes passed like hours. The rain kept falling, and somewhere, in the darkness, his children needed him. He drifted in and out of consciousness, the pain in his chest growing with each breath. Then, through the haze of rain and pain, he heard it, another car approaching. Headlights swept across the wreckage. A car door slammed. "Hello," a woman's voice, steady despite the storm. "Is anyone there?" "Help," James managed to call out. "My children—" Footsteps splashed through puddles. A face appeared at his window. A woman in scrubs, her hair plastered to her face by the rain. "I'm a nursing aide. Try not to move. I've called 911. She disappeared from view. James heard the rear door groan as she forced it open. "Hi there." Her voice was gentle now. "I'm Sarah. Can you tell me where it hurts?" Emma's voice, small and frightened. "My arm. Marcus won't wake up." "It's okay, sweetheart. I'm going to help you both. Can you be brave for your brother?" Through the fog of pain, James listened as Sarah talked to his children, her voice calm and reassuring. He heard the sound of metal straining, then Emma's cry of relief, the crunch of broken glass under careful feet. "Your brother's just unconscious," Sarah was saying. "We need to get him out carefully. Emma, I want you to hold my flashlight. Can you do that? Just like a doctor's assistant." Time blurred. The sound of sirens grew closer again. James fought to stay conscious, listening to Sarah's steady stream of encouragement as she worked to free Marcus. The last thing he heard before darkness took him was his son's voice, groggy but alive. "Is Daddy okay?" When he opened his eyes again, he was in a hospital room and his children were safe. But Sarah Mitchell was gone, leaving behind only a rain-soaked memory and a moment captured on his car's security camera. A moment that would soon change both their lives forever. Sarah woke to the insistent buzz of her phone. 6 missed calls from work, dozens of text notifications, and hundreds of social media alerts. Confused, she squinted at the screen, her body still aching from last night's rescue. The timestamp read 9:47 a.m. She'd overslept after getting home at dawn. "Mom!" David's voice carried an unfamiliar edge. "You need to see this." She stumbled into the living room, still wearing yesterday's scrubs. Jenny and David sat transfixed before David's laptop, their faces illuminated by the screen's glow. "Look," Jenny whispered, pointing at the video playing. "That's you." The footage was grainy but clear enough. Security camera video from the crashed car, showing Sarah fighting through the storm. The timestamp in the corner matched last night's rescue. She watched herself wrenching open the door, helping Emma out, carefully extracting Marcus. The video had no sound, but she remembered every moment. Emma's quiet bravery, Marcus's limp weight in her arms, the father's fading voice. "It's got 3 million views already," David said, scrolling through comments. "They're calling you the angel in the storm." Sarah sank onto the couch. 3 million? How? Jenny handed her a phone, open to a news article. "The kids you saved. Their dad is James Harrison, the tech billionaire." The article's headline screamed, "Harrison Air Rescue, Unknown Hero Saves Billionaire's Children." In dramatic storm footage. Below it, a photo of James Harrison at a tech conference, his face familiar now in the harsh light of morning. Her phone buzzed again. Pine Grove's number. With trembling fingers, she answered. "Sarah?" Her supervisor's voice was unusually gentle. "Take the day off. There are reporters in the parking lot asking about you." Reporters? It's not just local news anymore, the stories. Gone national. Harrison Technologies released a statement an hour ago. Sarah's head spun. She remembered the father trapped in the front seat, how his expensive suit had been soaked with rain and blood. Had he survived? A new video was trending now. James Harrison himself, filmed in his hospital room. His face was bruised, one arm in a sling, but his eyes burned with intensity as he spoke directly to the camera. "To the woman who saved my children last night. I don't know your name, but I know what you did." You stopped when others drove by. You risked your life in that storm. You kept my daughter calm and treated my son's injuries before the paramedics arrived. You did all this without knowing who we were, without expecting anything in return. I need to thank you personally. Please help me find her." The video ended with a number to call and an email address. The view counter was climbing past 10 million. "Mom?" David's voice was quiet. "What are you going to do?" Before she could answer, someone knocked on their apartment door. Sarah opened it to find Mrs. Rodriguez from next door, clutching her phone. "Sarah, you're on TV. Channel 7 is talking about you right now." Inside their apartment, the old TV flickered to life. A news anchor's polished voice filled the room. "And sources have identified the mystery hero as Sarah Mitchell, a nursing aide at Pine Grove Care Center. Mitchell, a widowed mother of two, lost her husband, Officer Mark Mitchell, in the line of duty 3 years ago. Social media is calling this a real-life fairy tale as the worlds of a struggling single mother and a tech billionaire collide. Sarah's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Unknown numbers, email notifications, social media requests. The apartment's landline started ringing too. She didn't even know it still worked. Jenny tugged at her sleeve. "Mum, look outside." Through their second-floor window, they could see news vans parking along their street. Reporters were setting up cameras, their satellite dishes pointed skyward. "This is crazy," David muttered, peeking through the curtains. "There's more coming." Sarah's phone buzzed again, a text from an unknown number. "Mrs. Mitchell, this is Angela Wong, Mr. Harrison's personal assistant. He would very much like to speak with you. Please call me at your earliest convenience." The apartment felt too small suddenly, the walls closing in. Sarah had spent years trying to keep her family safe, stable, invisible. Now the whole world was watching. Her laptop chimed with an incoming video call from Pine Grove. Mrs. Peterson's daughter appeared on screen, tears in her eyes. "Sarah, Mum wanted you to know. She saw you on TV and she's so proud. Everyone at Pine Grove is talking about it. You're a hero." Hero. The word felt wrong somehow. She'd just done what anyone would do, hadn't she? What Mark would have done. A new video was going viral now, security footage from a different angle, showing her cradling Marcus while talking quietly to Emma, keeping them calm as the storm raged. The comments section overflowed with emotion. "This is what a real hero looks like. Single mom, nursing aide, now this. Get this woman a cape. Harrison better take care of her after this. Anyone else crying? Just me." Jenny's inhaler wheezed in the background. The sound snapped Sarah back to reality. Bills to pay, prescriptions to fill, life to live. She couldn't hide in this apartment. Forever, David touched her arm. "Mom, your hands are shaking." She looked down. They were. Just like last night in the rain, when she'd first seen those small faces in the wreckage. Taking a deep breath, Sarah squared her shoulders. "David, get me my good uniform from the closet. Jenny, find my spare shoes." She pulled out her phone, fingers hovering over Angela Wong's number. "If they want to talk to me, fine, but we're doing this on our terms." Outside, cameras turned toward their building, waiting. Sarah Mitchell, widow, mother, nursing aide, reluctant hero, straightened her back and prepared to face a world that had suddenly decided to notice her existence. In his hospital room across town, James Harrison watched the news coverage unfold, his children sleeping safely beside him. On his tablet, Sarah's face filled the screen. A DMV photo from before all this began. She looked tired but determined, like someone used to carrying heavy burdens without complaint. "Find her," he told Angela, "whatever it takes." The storm had passed, but its effects were just beginning to ripple outward, drawing two families from opposite ends of society into each other's orbits. Neither of them could guess how their lives would change in the days to come. The private wing of Seattle Metropolitan Hospital felt like another world. Sarah clutched her visitor's badge, feeling out of place among the gleaming floors and hushed corridors. 2 security guards flanked her, while Angela Wong led the way. heels clicking precisely against marble tiles. "Mr. Harrison is still weak," Angela explained, consulting her tablet, "but Emma and Marcus haven't stopped asking for you." She paused, studying Sarah with careful eyes. "They've been through a lot, losing their mother now this." Sarah nodded, thinking of her own children's grief after Mark's death. Some pains were universal, regardless of bank balance. They reached a set of double doors marked "Private Wing." Angela typed a code, and the doors whispered open. "Ready?" Before Sarah could answer, a small figure burst through the doors. "It's you!" Emma Harrison threw herself at Sarah, wrapping thin arms around her waist. "I knew you'd come!" Sarah steadied herself, hugging the girl back. Emma looked different in daylight, no longer the frightened child from the storm, but a poised young lady in designer pajamas. Yet her grip was fierce, almost desperate. "Marcus, look who's here!" Emma called over her shoulder. A nurse wheeled Marcus out in a child-sized wheelchair, his leg in a cast. His face lit up. "The Angel Lady!" Sarah knelt beside his wheelchair. "Hey there, brave boy. How's the leg?" "It's cool. Everyone signed it. Will you sign it too?" He thrust a marker at her, bouncing slightly despite his injuries. "Marcus, careful," a deep voice warned from inside the room. James Harrison sat up in his hospital bed, looking both more and less imposing than his magazine photos. His injuries had humanized him somehow. The bruises, the sling, the hospital gown replacing his perfect suits. But his eyes were sharp, missing nothing as they tracked Sarah's movements. "Mrs. Mitchell," he said softly, "please come in." Sarah entered, acutely aware of her department store clothes among the luxury surrounding her. The private room was filled with flowers, gifts, and state-of-the-art medical equipment. A tablet beside the bed displayed real-time updates from Harrison Technologies. "Thank you for coming," James continued. "I know the media attention must be overwhelming. It's different," Sarah admitted, signing Marcus's cast with careful letters. "I'm not used to being noticed." "Daddy," Emma interrupted. "Can Sarah stay for lunch, please?" James glanced at Angela, who nodded imperceptibly. "Of course, if Mrs. Mitchell has time." "Sarah," she corrected automatically. "Just Sarah." She checked her phone. No messages from home. David was handling the reporters and Jenny was safe at her friend's house. "I'd love to stay." As if by magic, hospital staff appeared with covered trays. Not hospital food, Sarah realized. This was catered, the kind of lunch she'd never be able to afford. Emma pulled her to a small table by the window, chattering about school, her friends, how scared she'd been in the crash. "But then you came," the girl said, eyes shining. "Just like Mom always said, angels looked like regular people." Sarah's throat tightened. From his bed, James watched them, his expression unreadable. Marcus wheeled himself over, proudly showing Sarah his stuffed giraffe's new bandages, matching his own. For an hour, she sat with them, listening to their stories, answering their questions. They were just children, she realized, wealthy beyond imagination, but still needing the simple comfort of a caring adult's attention. "They've missed this," James said quietly, when the children were distracted by a new gift delivery. "Since Claire, well, I haven't been as present as I should be." Sarah met his gaze. "Children are resilient, but they need anchors, especially after loss. You sound like you know from experience." My husband Mark, 3 years ago, understanding passed between them, a shared knowledge of grief's weight, of children's needs left unmet despite best intentions. A soft knock interrupted them. Angela stood in the doorway. "Sir, the board is waiting for the video call." The spell broke. Sarah stood, smoothing her clothes. "I should go." "No," Emma protested. "You just got here." James raised a hand. "Emma, Sarah has her own family to get back to." He turned to Sarah. "But perhaps, would you come again? The children would love it." Sarah looked at Emma's hopeful face, at Marcus hugging his giraffe, at James Harrison's careful mask of professional distance. Two worlds colliding in this sterile hospital room. Yes, she heard herself say. I'd like that. The Pine Grove Care Center break room had never been so crowded. Sarah's co-workers huddled around a small TV mounted in the corner, watching her latest interview replay on the morning news. She tried to slip past unnoticed, but Mrs. Peterson's voice rang out from her wheelchair by the door. There's our guardian angel, the elderly woman beamed, holding out trembling arms for a hug. I always said you were special, didn't I? Sarah embraced her, breathing in the familiar scent of lavender powder. I just did my job, Mrs. Peterson, like we all do here every day. Nonsense, Mr. Chen called from his usual corner. We saw the video. You're a hero, like those medical workers in my village during the war. The morning newspaper lay open on the break room table. Sarah's face stared back at her from the front page. Local heroes past revealed. Widow of fallen officer saves billionaires. Children. The article detailed Mark's service record, his death in the line of duty, her struggles as a single mother. Sarah! Her supervisor, Linda, hurried in. Channel 7 is outside again. They want to film a segment about our hometown hero, and you won't believe what just arrived. Linda led her to the front desk, where dozens of gift baskets crowded the reception area. Cards and letters spilled from a box marked for Sarah Mitchell. A banner hung across the entrance. Home of Seattle's guardian angel. These came too. Linda handed her an envelope. Inside were checks, donations from strangers who'd seen her story. People want to help with Jenny's medical bills, and 3 medical companies called about covering her asthma treatments. Sarah's vision blurred. She'd spent years fighting insurance companies, stretching every dollar for Jenny's care. Now help arrived like rain after drought, all because of one stormy night. Her phone buzzed. A text from David. Mom, Jenny's teacher showed your interview in class. Everyone's being super nice to her, even the mean girls. Another message followed, but some reporters tried to talk to her at lunch. Principal put a stop to it. Sarah frowned. Jenny was shy enough without this attention. David, too, he'd missed. Soccer practice yesterday to dodge news crews. Sarah? Mr. Sullivan, their gruffest resident, wheeled up to her. My grandson sent me this. He held out his phone, showing a social media post. Someone had turned the rescue footage into what David called a meme, adding inspirational quotes about ordinary heroes. 5 million shares, Mr. Sullivan said proudly. That's my nurse. The morning passed in a blur of normal duties, transformed by her new status. Residents who usually ignored her now hung on every word. Fellow nurses asked for selfies. Even Dr. Richards, who rarely acknowledged staff, stopped to shake her hand. During her lunch break, Sarah escaped to the garden seeking quiet. Instead, she found Mrs. Chen, their head nurse, waiting. Your story, Mrs. Chen said softly. It gives people hope. Reminds them there's still good in the world. She paused. But fame is like strong medicine, helpful in small doses, dangerous in large ones. Sarah nodded, thinking of the reporters stalking her children, the endless calls, the strangers wanting pieces of her life. My daughter works at the diner you go to, Mrs. Chen continued. She says you haven't been in all week. The attention, Sarah gestured vaguely, her usual routine. Coffee at Joe's diner, grocery shopping at Rodriguez. Market Sunday services at Grace Chapel, all disrupted by camera flashes and probing questions. Don't let it change you, Mrs. Chen squeezed her hand. Don't let it steal your normal. Back inside, Sarah found a new gift on her cart, a handmade card from Emma Harrison, decorated with glitter and stickers. Inside, in careful, childish writing. Thank you for being our angel. Can you visit again soon? Marcus says his giraffe misses you. She tucked the card into her pocket, next to the visitor's badge from the hospital. 2 worlds still colliding. But which one was hers now? The afternoon brought more surprises. Anonymous donations to Pine Grove in her name. Job offers from private nursing agencies. A local charity wanting her as their spokesperson. Her small life expanding like ripples in a pond, touching shores. she'd never dreamed of reaching. At shift's end, Sarah changed out of her scrubs, dodged the waiting reporters, and drove home the long way. She passed the spot where she'd found the crashed car, where one ordinary choice had turned her quiet life into a public story. The road showed no signs of that night's drama, just rain-washed asphalt and indifferent trees. Yet everything had changed, and the ripples were still spreading. The Harrison Technologies building towered above downtown Seattle, its glass surface reflecting the rare afternoon sunlight. Sarah sat in the lobby, her department store dress feeling inadequate among the designer suits rushing past. Her visitors' badge drew curious glances from employees who'd likely seen her face on the news. Angela Wong appeared precisely at 2 o'clock, tablet in hand. "Mrs. Mitchell, thank you for coming. Mr. Harrison is ready for you." The elevator ride to the 60th floor was silent. Sarah watched the city shrink below them, her stomach tightening with each floor. The doors opened to reveal a reception area larger than her entire apartment. "Sarah!" Emma's voice echoed across marble floors. She sat at a child-sized desk near her father's office, homework spread before her. Marcus lay on a plush rug nearby, his casted leg propped on pillows. "What are you doing here?" Sarah asked, surprised to see them. "Daddy's office has the best view for doing homework," Emma explained, as if this were the most normal thing in the world. "And the chef here makes better snacks than at home." Before Sarah could process the concept of a corporate chef, James Harrison emerged from his office. His injuries from the crash were healing, the sling gone, though he still moved carefully. He wore a suit that probably cost more than her yearly salary, but his smile was warm. "Sarah, thank you for coming. Please step into my office." The view was staggering. Seattle spread out below them, Puget Sound glittering in the distance, but it was the legal document on Harrison's desk that caught her attention. "I'll be direct," he said, gesturing for her to sit. "You saved my children's lives. No amount of money can repay that debt, but I'd like to try." He slid the document toward her. Sarah's eyes caught numbers that made her dizzy. "A trust fund," Harrison explained, "for your children's education, full college scholarships plus living expenses, and a separate fund for Jenny's medical care, the best specialists, any treatment she needs." Sarah's hands trembled as she read. The amount was more than she'd earn in 10 lifetimes. "There's more," Harrison continued. "A house in a good school district. A new job if you want it. The Harrison Foundation needs someone with your compassion and experience. Or you can stay at Pine Grove. The choice is yours. But your financial worries would be over." Sarah looked through the glass wall. Emma had abandoned her homework to help Marcus with a puzzle. They waved when they caught her watching. "Why?" The word came out barely above a whisper. "Because you did what no one else would. You stopped. You helped. You didn't know who we were, what we could offer. You just saw children in need." Harrison's voice softened. "And because they need you. Mr. Harrison, James, please." "James, I can't accept this. It's too much." "It's not charity, Sarah. It's investment in someone who's proven their character. And," he hesitated, "the children haven't been this happy since Claire died. They ask about you constantly. Emma shows everyone that card you sent her. Marcus insists his giraffe can't sleep without the special bandage you made." Sarah thought of her own children. David's dreams of college, dampened by financial reality. Jenny's breathing treatments, rationed by insurance limits. A lifetime of "no, we can't afford that," could end with a single signature. But another voice whispered in her head, Mark's voice, talking about integrity, about doing right things for right reasons. "I need time," she said finally, "to think, to talk to my kids." Harrison nodded, unsurprised. "Of course, but there's one more thing." He pressed a button on his desk. "Send them in, please." The door opened. Emma and Marcus wheeled in, followed by Angela with a thick folder. "We made you something," Emma announced, bouncing on her toes. "Show her, Marcus." Marcus proudly held up a drawing. It showed 2 houses side by side, stick figures holding hands between them. "That's us," he pointed. And that's you and David and Jenny, so we can be neighbors. Sarah's vision blurred. Emma was already spreading more papers across the desk. Plans, photos, property listings. Daddy says we can help pick the house, she explained earnestly. There's one with a garden for Jenny's herbs and a basketball court for David. Marcus found out he likes basketball from his Instagram. Sarah shot Harrison a look. He shrugged apologetically. They're very thorough researchers. The children's excitement filled the office, their voices overlapping as they shared their plans. Sarah watched them, these privileged children who'd lost so much, now lighting up at the possibility of connection. The offer has no strings, Harrison said quietly, while the kids argued over house colors. Whatever you decide about the rest, the medical and education funds are yours. You gave my children their lives. Let me give yours a future. Sarah looked down at the legal papers, then at the children's drawing. 2 families, linked by one. Stormy night. 2 worlds, colliding or connecting. The choice now lay in her hands. The keys to the new house felt heavy in Sarah's hand. Standing in the empty driveway, she still couldn't quite believe it was real. The colonial-style home sat on a quiet street in one of Seattle's best neighborhoods, its red brick facade warm. In the morning light, "Mom, come see my room," Jenny called from inside. The excitement in her voice was something Sarah hadn't heard in years. No wheeze, no strain. The new treatment protocol was already making a difference. She followed her daughter's voice upstairs, each step on the hardwood floors echoing through empty spaces waiting to be filled. Jenny stood in a large bedroom with a window seat overlooking a garden. "Emma says we can plant an herb garden together," Jenny said, pressing her hand against the glass. "And look, you can see the mountains." Sarah smiled, remembering Emma's detailed presentation of the house's features. The Harrison children had thought of everything, from the downstairs study for David's homework to the specially designed kitchen where Sarah could teach Marcus baking, as she'd promised. Her phone buzzed. A text from her old neighbor, Mrs. Rodriguez. "The moving trucks just left. Your furniture looks so small in that big house, but don't worry, God has a plan." Sarah sighed. Mrs. Rodriguez meant well, but the comment stung. Everything from their apartment did look small here, like dollhouse furniture in a real home. Harrison had offered to have the house fully furnished, but Sarah had insisted on keeping their own things. Some anchors to their old life needed to remain. "Mom!" David's voice carried from downstairs. "The Wi-Fi guy is here." In the kitchen, a technician was installing what he called a smart home system. Sarah nodded at his explanations about voice, controls and automated everything, understanding little but grateful for David's quick grasp of the technology. "Pretty different from the old place, huh?" David said when the technician left. He was trying to sound casual, but Sarah caught the uncertainty in his voice. "Change takes time," she replied, unpacking a box marked "Kitchen." She placed Mark's favorite coffee mug on a shelf, its chip and faded police badge logo, a familiar comfort among the gleaming new appliances. The doorbell rang. Their first visitor. Sarah opened the door to find a well-dressed woman with a professional smile. "Mrs. Mitchell, I'm Catherine Walsh, head of the Lakeside School Admissions Committee. Mr. Harrison asked me to stop by personally to discuss David and Jenny's enrollment." Sarah felt David tense beside her. They'd known this was coming. The best private school. In Seattle, part of Harrison's offer, but seeing the admissions officer made it real. "Their records are impressive," Ms. Walsh continued, settling at the kitchen island. "David's soccer achievements, Jenny's science fair wins, and given the circumstances..." She glanced diplomatically at a newspaper on the counter, Sarah's rescue story still making headlines. "Given the circumstances," Sarah echoed, "I want to be sure they're accepted on their own merits." "Mom," David interrupted, "does this mean I have to quit the team?" His soccer team, kids he'd played with since grade school, now seemingly a world away. "Actually," Ms. Walsh smiled, "Lakeside's soccer program is exceptional, and Jenny, we have a specialized science track that would complement your interest in botanical medicine." Jenny appeared in the doorway, holding her old homework notebook. Could I still grow herbs? We have a state-of-the-art greenhouse. The conversation continued, details of a new life unfurling like a map. Different uniform requirements, advanced. Placement options, transportation arrangements. Sarah watched her children's expressions shift from anxiety to cautious excitement. After Ms. Walsh left, Sarah found herself alone in the master bedroom. She unpacked Mark's photograph, placing it on the windowsill. "What would you think of all this?" she whispered. Her phone chimed with another text. James Harrison this time. "The children wanted to know if you're all settling in. Emma suggests a housewarming dinner. Marcus says his giraffe needs a checkup." Before she could reply, car doors slammed outside. Through the window, she saw her new neighbors gathering, trying to look casual as they assessed the newest addition to their exclusive street. "Mom," Jenny called, "can we explore the backyard?" Sarah took a deep breath, squared her shoulders, and headed downstairs. Change was never easy, but she'd faced harder challenges. They would make this house a home, find their place in this new world without losing who they were. In the backyard, Jenny was already planning her herb garden while David practiced soccer, moves on the pristine lawn. Above them, the mountains watched, unchanged and unchanging, as one family began the delicate work of transformation. The letter had no return address. Sarah found it mixed among the usual fan mail and interview requests, its plain envelope standing out among the colorful cards and packages. Inside, a single typed page made her blood run cold. "You don't deserve any of this. Who do you think you are, taking advantage of a grieving family? We know the truth about that night. Stay away from the Harrisons, or everyone will find out what really happened." It wasn't the first threatening letter, but it was the most direct. Sarah slipped it into a folder with the others, hidden in her desk drawer. No need to worry the children or James Harrison's security team. Ms. Mitchell, her new housekeeper Maria, appeared in the doorway. Sarah was still getting used to having help around the house. "Mr. Rodriguez is here about the herb garden design." Sarah nodded, tucking the folder away. Through the window, she could see her old friend's husband shifting awkwardly in the driveway, his landscaping truck looking out of place among the luxury vehicles lining the street. "Carlos," she greeted him warmly. "Thank you for coming." "Sarah." He removed his hat, eyes taking in the imposing house. "It's different seeing you here." They'd known each other for years. Carlos had helped her fix countless things in her old apartment, never charging more than she could afford. Now he stood before her as a contractor, clipboard in hand. "Jenny's excited about the garden," Sarah said, trying to bridge the growing distance. "She remembers the tomatoes you grew last summer." Carlos nodded, but his smile didn't reach his eyes. "My wife says you don't come to church anymore." The reporters. Sarah trailed off. The last time she'd tried attending services, cameras had disrupted the entire congregation. "It's complicated. Life gets complicated when you climb too high, too fast." Carlos's words carried an edge. "People wonder how you really got here." Before Sarah could respond, a sleek black car pulled into the driveway. Emma and Marcus tumbled out, followed by their nanny. They'd been spending more time here lately, their father busy with Project Oracle's launch. "Sarah." Marcus hopped toward her, still adapting to his walking cast. "Can we make cookies? Dad's coming for dinner." Emma hung back, watching Carlos with curious eyes. "Is this for Jenny's garden? She showed me the plans at school." Carlos straightened, professionalism masking his previous concern. "Yes, miss, we'll make it very special." Later, after Carlos left with the garden contract and Emma helped Marcus with his physical therapy exercises, Sarah checked her phone. 3 missed calls from Linda at Pine Grove. "Sarah," Linda's voicemail was tense. "Some of the residents' families are complaining. They say you're getting special treatment. Mrs. Peterson's daughter is talking about moving her to another facility. Please call me." Sarah sank into a kitchen chair, the granite countertops and high-end appliances suddenly feeling like props in a play where she'd been miscast. From the family room came the sound of children laughing. Marcus showing Emma how to wrap his giraffe's leg, just like the angel lady did. Her phone buzzed again. A text from one of her old nursing colleagues. Must be nice living in that big house while we're still doing the real work. Hope you remember where you came from. The words stung more than the anonymous threat. She did remember. Every double shift, every missed dinner, every time she'd had to choose between paying rent and buying Jenny's medicine. The doorbell rang. Through the security camera, another new feature she was adjusting to, she saw Janet. From her old book club, they'd been friends for years, meeting monthly in each other's small apartments to discuss novels and share struggles. "Janet, hi." Sarah opened the door. "I've missed you at—" "Save it," Janet cut her off, thrusting a box into her hands. "Here are your old books. Wouldn't want to deprive you of anything else." "What are you talking about?" "You know exactly what I mean. All those years pretending to be one of us, struggling like us. Now look at you, living in a mansion, sending your kids to private school, playing house with a billionaire's family." "It's not like that," Sarah protested. "James is just grateful." "James?" Janet's laugh was bitter. "Listen to yourself. You're not the Sarah we knew. You're not real anymore." After Janet left, Sarah stood in her perfect new foyer, holding the box of dog-eared paperbacks they'd once passed around like treasures. From upstairs came Emma's voice, teaching Marcus. A song from school. The threatening letter's words echoed in her mind. We know the truth about that night. But what was the truth? That she'd stopped to help, that she'd created a connection she never expected, that she'd accepted help when it was offered? Or was the truth something darker, that in trying to give her children a better life, she was somehow betraying everyone she'd left behind? The security system chimed softly, announcing James Harrison's car approaching the gate. Another dinner, another evening of worlds colliding. Sarah squared her shoulders, pushed the doubts down, and went to check on the children. But the weight of unspoken accusations followed her up the stairs, as heavy as the box of abandoned books in her arms. The Pine Grove Care Center felt different now. Sarah noticed it the moment she walked through the familiar doors, her sensible shoes squeaking on the freshly waxed floors. The residents still smiled, but their families watched her with wary eyes. Her fellow nurses kept their distance, conversations dying when she entered the break room. "Sarah." Linda caught her just as she was starting her rounds. "We need to talk." In the small administrative office, Sarah sat across from her longtime supervisor, noting how Linda wouldn't quite meet her eyes. A resignation letter lay between them, blank spaces waiting for Sarah's signature. "The board thinks it's best," Linda said softly. "With all the media attention, the complaints from other families, it's becoming disruptive." "Disruptive?" Sarah's voice cracked. "I've worked here for 8 years. These people are my family." "We're your family," a new voice cut in. Rebecca Chen, Mrs. Chen's daughter and the facility's legal counsel, stood in the doorway. "Things change when you start living in a mansion and driving a luxury car." "I still drive my old Honda," Sarah protested. "And the house. That doesn't change who I am, doesn't it?" Rebecca stepped into the office. "3 families have already transferred their relatives to other facilities. They say Pine Grove is more interested in cultivating celebrity staff than providing care. Your presence is affecting our reputation." Sarah thought of Mrs. Peterson, who'd cried when she'd heard about Sarah's children getting into Lakeside School, of Mr. Sullivan, who'd stopped asking her to check his crossword puzzles. Even Mrs. Chen had grown distant, her wise counsel replaced by polite silence. "What about my patients?" Sarah asked. "They need consistency, familiar faces. They need nurses who aren't followed by paparazzi," Rebecca interrupted. "Who don't have reporters sneaking in pretending to be family members. Who don't get mysterious phone calls from billionaires during their shifts." That last barb stung. James had only called once, when Marcus had a panic attack at school. She'd talked him through it during her lunch break, knowing exactly how to calm his fears. Linda pushed the resignation letter forward. We're prepared to offer a generous severance package, and of course, we'll give you an excellent reference." Sarah stared at the paper, remembering her first day at Pine Grove. How scared she'd been, a young widow starting over. The residents had become her extended family, their needs and stories intertwined with her own healing. Her phone buzzed. A text from Emma. "Dad says you're coming to my piano recital tonight. I practiced the song you liked." Another message followed from James. "No pressure about tonight. I know you're working, but the children would love to see you." The contrast struck her like a physical blow. Two worlds pulling her apart. "I need to finish my shift," she said, standing. "I owe my patients that much." Back in the familiar corridors, Sarah went through her rounds mechanically. Change vital signs, dispense medications, offer comfort where needed. But everything felt off-kilter, like a dream where familiar places turned strange. In room 204, Mrs. Peterson was having a bad day. "Sarah," the elderly woman called out, "is that really you? You look different." "It's me," Sarah assured her, adjusting her pillows with practiced care. "Just the same as always." "No," Mrs. Peterson shook her head. "You're fading away, like a photograph left in the sun. Soon you'll be too faint to see at all," the words echoed as Sarah completed her tasks. In the pharmacy room, she overheard two nurses whispering, "Must be nice, having an escape route. The rest of us are stuck here, in the real world." By afternoon, the weight of unspoken accusations felt unbearable. Even the residents seemed to sense it, their requests tinged with apology, as if they were imposing on someone who'd outgrown them. In the break room, Sarah found her locker had been cleared out, her personal items packed neatly in a box. Her and coffee mug, a gift from the staff on her 5th anniversary, sat on top, wrapped in tissue paper. The message was clear. There was no going back. With trembling hands, Sarah retrieved the resignation letter from Linda's office. The signature, line weighted, blank and accusatory. 8 years of dedication, of midnight shifts and holiday coverage, of holding hands through final breaths and celebrating small victories, all reduced to a single line requiring her signature. Outside her office, the facility's life continued. Call lights blinked. Med carts squeaked down hallways, televisions murmured from resident rooms. The rhythm of care that had defined her life for so long now felt like music from a distant room, fading with each step toward her new reality. Sarah picked up the pen, her vision blurring as she signed her name. Some bridges once crossed couldn't be rebuilt. Some choices, once made, rewrote everything that came before. Sarah found the photograph while unpacking the last box from Pine Grove. It had slipped between old personnel files and thank you cards, its edges worn from years of handling. The image showed a younger version of herself in nursing scrubs, standing beside a hospital bed. A familiar face smiled weakly from the pillows. Claire Harrison. The memory hit her like a physical blow. 5 years ago, during her training rotation at Seattle General, the patient in 507 who'd spent 3 weeks battling complications from pneumonia, the quiet woman who'd shared stories about her children during long night shifts. "Oh my God," Sarah whispered, sinking into her chair. How had she not recognized Claire in all the photos around James's office, in the family portraits Emma kept by her bed? Her hands shook as she pulled up old hospital records on her laptop, accessing them with her still valid nursing credentials. There it was, Claire Harrison, admitted for pneumonia in 2019, complicated by an underlying condition. The same condition that would return as pancreatic cancer years later. Sarah's phone buzzed. James Harrison's number. She let it go to voicemail, her mind racing through implications. The threatening letters suddenly took on new meaning. We know the truth about that night. Did someone else remember her connection to Claire? Mom? David stood in the doorway, holding a tablet. "You need to see this." On the screen, a breaking news headline screamed, "Harrison Hero Scandal, Anonymous. Source claims prior connection." Below it, a blurry hospital photo showed Sarah adjusting Claire Harrison's IV. The story was already spreading across social media. "Staged rescue?" one comment read. "No coincidence she was on that road that night." "It's not true," Sarah said, her voice hollow. "I didn't know. I didn't remember." Her phone erupted with notifications. Reporters were gathering at the gate again. Twitter was trending with hashtags, "Das Harrison Scandal," "Das Angelgate," "Das Truth Coming Emma's." Name flashed on her screen. "Sarah, why are people saying mean things about you? Dad won't tell us what's happening." Before she could respond, Angela Wong called, "Mrs. Mitchell, Mr. Harrison needs to see you immediately. A car is on its way." The ride to Harrison Technologies felt like a dream. Seattle's streets blurred past the tinted windows as Sarah clutched the old photograph. She'd spent 3 weeks caring for Claire Harrison, listening to her talk about her brilliant husband and beautiful children. How had that memory stayed buried? Until now. In James's office, the atmosphere was tense. He stood at the window, his back to the door. Lawyers and PR executives filled the room, their conversations dying as Sarah entered. "James," she started, "I can explain." "You knew her." His voice was flat. He turned, holding another photograph. Sarah helping Claire into a wheelchair, both women laughing at some forgotten joke. "You knew my wife. I was her nurse years ago. I didn't make the connection until today." "Didn't you?" A new voice cut in. Rebecca Chen stepped forward holding a file. "Our investigation shows you accessed Claire Harrison's records multiple times over the years." Sarah's mind raced. Had she? Sometimes she looked up old patients, checking outcomes, learning from past cases. "It was for training," she said. "Case studies, I never—" "You just happened to be on that road the night of the crash?" Rebecca pressed. "A road miles from your usual route home." "There was construction on Main Street," Sarah whispered. "I took a detour." James held up his hand, silencing the room. "Everyone out, except you, Sarah." When they were alone, he sank into his chair, suddenly looking older. "I've spent the last hour watching security footage from the hospital. Claire's stay there? She liked you?" Sarah nodded, tears threatening. "She was kind to me. It was right after Mark died. She could tell I was struggling. She mentioned you once." James's voice softened. "A young nurse who'd lost her husband. She wanted to help, but you'd transferred to Pine Grove before she could. I needed a fresh start. Away from the hospital, the memories. And years later, you just happened to save our children." "James, please, I swear I didn't know. When I saw that car, those kids, I wasn't thinking about anything except helping." He was silent for a long moment, studying the photograph. "Emma has Claire's smile, doesn't she? I see it more now, watching her with you. She has her kindness too." James stood abruptly, pacing. "The media's going crazy. Stock prices are dropping. The board is concerned about Project Oracle's launch." "I'll leave," Sarah said quietly. "Go somewhere else, give back everything." "No." His voice was sharp. "Running looks like guilt, and besides—" He gestured to a tablet on his desk, showing security footage from their house. "Emma and Marcus were in the garden with Jenny, planting herbs. They need you. But the scandal— Claire would have loved this, you know." A ghost of a smile crossed his face. "The universe's strange way of bringing people together. She always—" "You said there were no coincidences." Sarah remembered Claire saying something similar during those long hospital nights. About life's invisible threads connecting people across time and circumstance. James pressed a button on his desk. "Angela, send in the PR team and call Emma. Tell her Sarah will be there for dinner after all." The next hour was a blur of strategy. Meetings. Press releases were drafted, timelines established, narratives shaped. The story would break on their terms. How Claire Harrison had touched Sarah's life years ago, planting seeds of compassion that would bear fruit in the most unexpected way. "The truth," James told the PR team, "is better than their lies. A nurse who helped my wife once saved our children, not because of that connection, but because of who she is, who Claire helped her become. Later, driving home through Seattle's evening traffic, Sarah's phone buzzed with a new message, an email from Claire Harrison, automatically delivered through the hospital's system after 5 years. A thank you note she'd written before being discharged, never sent. "Dear Sarah," it read, "thank you for your kindness during my stay. I see in you the same strength I hope to teach my children, that life's hardest moments can lead us to our most important purposes. Take care of yourself, and remember that no act of compassion is ever wasted. It ripples outward in ways we may never see. Claire." Sarah pulled into her driveway, where Emma and Marcus waited with Jenny and David. The children had made dinner together, slightly burned cookies and uneven sandwiches. A family created by tragedy and chance, by a long-ago kindness echoing. Through years, the media would tell their version, critics would spin their theories, but here, in this house built on hope and healing, Sarah finally understood. Some connections couldn't be explained, only lived. Some truths were written not in headlines, but in the quiet moments between heartbeats, in the way love finds its way home through time's long maze. The private investigator's report landed on James Harrison's desk with a dull thud. Inside, Sarah's life had been dissected into clinical bullet points. Every job, every move, every connection to the Harrison family mapped with cold precision. "A timing checks out," Angela said, highlighting key passages. Sarah's transfer to Pine Grove, her route that night, her social media history. There's no evidence of prior contact after Claire's hospital stay, but the damage was already done. Outside Harrison Technologies, protesters carried signs, "No more cover-ups," and "Truth for Claire." Online conspiracy theories multiplied. Sarah was Claire's secret confidant, privy to Harrison Technologies' darkest secrets. She'd orchestrated the crash to infiltrate the family. She was part of a corporate espionage plot. In Sarah's kitchen, David slammed his laptop shut. "They're saying you only saved them for money, that you planned it all." "What they're saying about you isn't true," Emma declared fiercely, having appointed herself Sarah's defender at school. "Mom would have liked you helping us. I remember she always said to look for angels in unexpected places." Marcus hadn't spoken much since the news broke, but he'd taken to carrying his medical kit everywhere, meticulously checking his giraffe's bandages. "To make sure they're done right," he'd whisper, "like Sarah showed me." The media siege had intensified. Reporters dug into Mark's police record, questioning if his death had really been in the line of duty. They scrutinized Jenny's medical bills, suggesting Sarah had exploited her daughter's illness for sympathy. "We should never have gone public," James muttered during a late-night crisis meeting. "Should have kept the whole thing quiet." "The truth would have come out eventually," Sarah replied, remembering Claire's words about ripples and connections. "At least this way, we control the narrative." But controlling the narrative proved harder than expected. Project Oracle's launch was postponed. Investors nervous about the scandal's impact. Harrison Technologies' stock dropped 15 points. James's board demanded action. "They want me to distance the company from you," he admitted one evening. "Say we were misled. Cut ties, protect the shareholders." Sarah watched their children through the window. Emma teaching Jenny piano, David helping Marcus with his physical therapy exercises. "If that's what you need to do, no." James's voice was firm. Claire wouldn't have wanted that. She believed in connections, in how people come into our lives at the right moment, even if we don't understand why at the time. The investigation continued. Every nurse who'd worked with Sarah during Claire's hospital stay was interviewed. Security footage from that period was enhanced and analyzed. Hospital records were scrutinized for any sign of impropriety. Sarah's old journal from that time was discovered. Pages filled with grief over Mark, anxiety about her future, and brief mentions of the kind patient in 507 who reminded her that Life could bloom again after loss. Look at this entry, James said one night, poring over the photocopied pages. Mrs. H told me today that sometimes angels wear hospital gowns instead of wings. Said I helped her see beauty even in illness. That was Claire, always finding light in dark places. But not everyone saw it that way. Rebecca Chen's legal team built a case suggesting Sarah had obsessively followed the Harrisons for years, gathering information, waiting for her moment. They presented a timeline of suspicious coincidences. Her transfer to Pine Grove soon after Claire's diagnosis, her presence on that remote road, her immediate connection with the children. How do we fight shadows? Sarah asked her empty bedroom. One night, Mark's photo, her only witness. How do we prove the truth of the heart? The answer came from an unexpected source. Mrs. Chen, who'd been quiet throughout the scandal, finally spoke up. During a board meeting discussing Sarah's impact on Harrison Technology's reputation, she stood and faced the executives. In Chinese medicine, she said quietly, we believe that nothing happens by accident. Every meeting, every connection, serves a purpose. Claire Harrison touched Sarah's life during her greatest grief. Years later, Sarah saved Claire's children during their darkest moment. If you can't see the poetry in that, you're looking with the wrong eyes. The room fell silent. James Harrison smiled for the first time in days. And somewhere, in the space between coincidence and destiny, a truth too beautiful for boardrooms began to take shape. Sarah stared at the draft of her speech, words blurring before her eyes. The press conference was scheduled for tomorrow morning. A joint appearance with James Harrison to address the scandal head-on. Every word had been vetted by lawyers, shaped by PR experts, weighted with the future of both families. It's still not right, she murmured, crossing out another carefully crafted paragraph. Then make it right. James looked up from his laptop, where Harrison Technology's stock price crawled steadily downward. Forget the lawyers, forget the PR team. What would you say if it was just you speaking from the heart? Sarah closed her eyes, remembering Claire in that hospital room years ago, the way she'd spoken about her children, her hopes, her fears, the quiet strength that had helped a grieving young nurse find her footing again. I'd tell them about her, Sarah said softly, about how she made me laugh during night shifts, how she showed me pictures of Emma and Marcus, telling me that motherhood was the greatest adventure of her life. Emma appeared in the doorway, Marcus's hand firmly in hers. Can we help? We remember things about Mom too. James's expression softened. Come here, both of you. The children settled on the office floor, Emma pulling out her tablet to take notes. Marcus clutched his ever-present medical kit, a symbol of his trust in Sarah that no scandal could shake. What do you remember about that night? James asked them gently. The real story, not what people are saying. I was scared, Marcus said quietly. But then Sarah came, and she talked to us like Mom used to when we were scared, soft but strong. Emma nodded. She didn't care about her clothes getting wet or dirty. She just wanted to help. Mom always said you can tell someone's true heart by what they do when nobody's watching. Sarah felt tears threatening. Claire said that to me once, in the hospital, when I stayed late to sit with her during a rough night. Write that down, James told Emma. Every real memory, every true connection. That's our story. They worked through the evening, ordering pizza and spreading papers across the floor. David and Jenny joined them, adding their perspectives on how their lives had changed. Not just the material improvements, but the deeper shifts, the way two broken families had begun to heal each other. Remember what Mom wrote in her journal? Emma asked, pulling up the digital copy on her tablet. About wanting us to have more than just wealth. She wanted us to have heart. Sarah's phone buzzed with a text from Mrs. Chen. The koi in my pond swim in circles until they find their path. Then nothing can stop them. You have found your path, Sarah. Now swim. The words sparked something. Sarah pulled out a fresh sheet of paper and began to write. Not a speech, but a story about grief and healing, about chance meetings that weren't chance at all. about how love could echo through years to bring people together when they needed it most. "Listen to this," she said, reading aloud. The room fell silent, even Marcus setting down his medical kit to pay attention. When she finished, James wiped his eyes. "That's it. That's what we tell them. But the lawyers said, the lawyers don't. Understand?" he interrupted. "This isn't about stock prices or corporate image. It's about family, about connections that run deeper than coincidence." Emma was already typing furiously on her tablet. "I'm changing the presentation slides to match your story. And I have pictures, real ones, from when Mum was in the hospital. See?" She held up the screen, showing a half-forgotten photo of Claire and Sarah, both laughing as they tried to untangle an IV line. The truth of their connection captured in one candid moment. "We'll need visual aids," James said, slipping into CEO mode. Documentation, timeline, everything that shows how organic this was. Not just Claire's hospital stay, but all the years between. Show how neither of you knew the connection until now. Sarah looked around the room, at James finding purpose beyond his grief, at Emma organizing like her mother, at Marcus healing through helping others, at her own children, David and Jenny, their lives enriched not just by opportunity, but by expanded love. "Whatever happens tomorrow," she said, "this is our truth, all of it." The next morning, as Sarah prepared to face the media, she found a new drawing from Marcus in her briefcase. It showed two families holding hands, surrounded by angels wearing both wings and hospital scrubs. Below it, in careful, childish writing, "Sometimes angels look like nurses. Sometimes nurses remember angels." She folded the drawing carefully into her speech notes. Whatever the world might say, the real story was written in moments like these. In children's wisdom, in remembered kindness, in love's long echo finding its way home. The Harrison Technologies auditorium hummed with tension. Camera lights blazed as reporters filled every seat, their phones ready to broadcast live across social media. In the green room, Sarah smoothed her simple blue dress, chosen to match, the one she'd worn in that old hospital photo with Claire. "Ready?" James appeared beside her, Emma and Marcus flanking him like small guardians. David and Jenny stood with them, all six linked now by something deeper than scandal, almost. Sarah touched the folder containing her speech, Marcus's drawing, visible through the transparent cover. "What if they don't believe us?" "They'll believe the truth," Emma said with Claire's certainty. "Mom always said truth has its own light." The PR team made final adjustments. Screens were checked, microphones tested. Behind the podium, a timeline would display the real story. Claire's hospital stay, the years between, the night of the Yasur crash. No corporate polish, just authentic moments documented in time. Sarah's phone lit up with a text from Mrs. Peterson. "We're all watching, dear. Show them who you really are." At exactly 10 a.m., James Harrison stepped onto the stage. Camera. Shutters clicked rapidly as he approached the podium, his presence commanding even without his usual corporate armor. "5 years ago," he began, "my late wife Claire spent 3 weeks in Seattle General Hospital. During that time, she wrote in her journal about a young nurse who'd recently lost her husband, a nurse who showed her that healing was possible, even in life's darkest moments." The screens behind him displayed Claire's journal entry, her elegant handwriting filling the frame. "Sarah showed me today that grace comes in unexpected forms. Her grief is still fresh, yet she gives so much comfort to others. Must remember to help her somehow." James continued, each word measured. "That nurse was Sarah Mitchell. Neither she nor I knew of this connection until the media storm forced us to dig deeper. What some call conspiracy, we call something else. Proof that compassion echoes through time in ways we can't predict." He gestured to Sarah, who walked onto the stage with steady steps. The children watched from the wings, Emma holding Marcus's hand, David protective of Jenny. Sarah faced the sea of cameras, unfolding Marcus's drawing instead of her prepared speech. The night I found that crashed car, I wasn't thinking about connections or consequences. I saw children in need, just as Claire Harrison once saw a grieving nurse who needed kindness. She held up the old hospital photo. This was us 5 years ago. Two mothers sharing stories during long nights. Claire told me about her amazing children, about her hopes for their future. She helped me believe in life after loss. The room had gone completely silent. Even the most hardened reporters leaned forward, sensing a story bigger than scandal. Years later, without knowing it, I helped fulfill her greatest wish, keeping those children safe. Sarah's voice caught. Some call it coincidence, some call it conspiracy. I call it love's long echo finding its way home. Emma stepped onto the stage then, unplanned but perfect. I remember that night, she said clearly into the microphone. How Sarah talked to us just like Mom used to. How she wasn't scared of the rain or the dark. How she made Marcus laugh even though he was hurt. Marcus joined his sister, clutching his medical kit. She showed me how to be brave, he added softly, like Mom did. The cameras caught it all. Two families standing together, their story written in gestures and glances, in shared strength and healing. David and Jenny completed the picture, the truth of their bond visible to anyone willing to see it. James raised his hand as reporters began shouting questions. Before you ask about stock prices or corporate implications, look at what's really here. A connection that began with one woman's kindness to another. A rescue that brought healing to two grieving families. Sometimes the simplest truth is the most powerful. Sarah watched love's light dawn in the journalists' faces, saw them lowering their accusatory questions, reaching instead for tissues, for human connection. The story was transforming before their eyes from scandal to salvation. Claire Harrison taught me that every act of kindness matters, Sarah concluded, that we're all connected in ways we may never fully understand. This isn't a conspiracy. It's a reminder that love leaves markers for us to follow home. As the room erupted in questions and camera flashes, Sarah felt Claire's presence like sunshine after storm. Some truths couldn't be hidden. Some connections couldn't be denied. Some stories wrote themselves in the language of the heart. The letter arrived a week after the press conference, handwritten on expensive stationery. Sarah recognized Janet's precise handwriting immediately. Dear Sarah, I was wrong. We all were. Watching you tell your story, seeing the truth of your connection to the Harrisons, it made me realize how quick we are to doubt miracles just because we can't explain them. I miss our book club discussions. I miss my friend. It wasn't the only message of reconciliation. Carlos Rodriguez had left a voicemail. The garden plans are ready whenever you are, Sarah. Jenny's herbs should be planted before winter. And I'm sorry for doubting you. Even Rebecca Chen had sent a brief email. The board has withdrawn all concerns. Project Oracle launches next month. Mr. Harrison was right to stand by you. Sarah sat in her kitchen, watching Emma help Jenny arrange herbs for drying. The girls had become inseparable, their shared love of botany bridging any social divide. Through the window, she could see David teaching Marcus soccer, the younger boy's cast finally removed. Penny for your thoughts? James stood in the doorway, looking more relaxed than she'd seen him since the scandal broke. Harrison Technologies' stock had rebounded, public sentiment swinging strongly in their favor after the press conference. Just reading messages, Sarah replied, gesturing to her phone. Seems like telling the truth really does have its own power. Claire would say, I told you so. James smiled, the expression reaching his eyes now. She always believed in the poetry of life's connections. The media had transformed their story from scandal to sensation. Love's echo became a trending phrase, inspiring think pieces about fate, connection, and the ripple effects of kindness. Their press conference had gone viral for all the right reasons. Authenticity replacing accusation, truth drowning out, Conspiracy. Mrs. Mitchell? Linda's voice came tentatively from the speakerphone. The residents are asking about you. Mrs. Peterson says her new nurse doesn't wrap her blankets right. Would you consider coming back? Maybe part-time? Sarah looked at James, who nodded encouragingly. Pine Grove needs your gift, he said. And so does the Harrison Foundation's new elder care initiative. The foundation had emerged stronger from the controversy. Its mission expanded to include programs supporting both pediatric cancer research and quality elder care. Claire's legacy growing in unexpected directions. I'd like that, Sarah told Linda. Tell Mrs. Peterson I'll show the new nurse my blanket wrapping technique. Later that evening, as both families gathered for their now traditional Sunday dinner, Sarah found Marcus studying Claire's hospital photo intently. What are you thinking about, sweetheart? Mom knew, he said with children's certainty. She knew you'd find us someday. That's why she helped you first. Emma looked up from her homework. Like in those stories she used to tell us, about guardian angels wearing regular clothes. Speaking of clothes, James interrupted, sliding a letter across the table. The Children's Hospital Board wants Sarah to speak at their fundraising gala. Black tie event, Sarah laughed. I don't own anything fancy enough for that. Yes, you do, Jenny said mysteriously, exchanging glances with Emma. We've been working on something. The girls disappeared upstairs, returning with a garment bag. Inside was an elegant blue gown, the same shade as Sarah's nursing scrubs from her days with Claire. Mom's favorite color, Emma explained. We found it in her closet. Mrs. Chen helped us alter it. Sarah touched the fabric gently, feeling the weight of meaning in every stitch. Are you sure? She'd want you to have it, James said softly. You're helping raise her children, carrying forward her belief in life's hidden harmonies. What could be more fitting? David, who'd been quietly observing, spoke up. You know what this means, Mom? You'll need dance lessons for the gala. Already arranged, James grinned. Marcus and I are expert instructors, aren't we, son? Marcus demonstrated, by attempting a spin, nearly knocking over his water glass. The room filled with laughter, not the polite kind that had once echoed through Harrison halls, but real, uninhibited joy. Sarah looked around the table at their blended family. Emma teaching Jenny proper table etiquette, David showing Marcus how to fold his napkin into animals, James watching it all with quiet contentment. The price of redemption, she realized, wasn't in explaining coincidences or proving connections. It was in accepting love's mysterious ways, in letting joy write its own story. To Mom, Emma raised her glass suddenly. Both of them, the one who brought us together and the one who keeps us together. They all raised their glasses, even Marcus with his careful two-handed grip. In that moment, Sarah felt Claire's presence like sunshine through windows, warming them all in love's lasting light. 1 year after the press conference, the Claire Harrison Memorial Foundation opened its doors. The modern building housed both a pediatric cancer research center and an elder care training facility. In the lobby, 2 photographs hung side by side. Claire in her hospital bed, sharing a laugh with a young nurse, and Sarah pulling 2 children from a storm-wrecked car. Looking at these still gives me chills, Emma said, straightening her volunteer badge. At 14, she'd begun spending afternoons helping in the foundation's herb garden, teaching patients about natural remedies, just as Jenny had taught her. Sarah watched her daughter lead a tour group through the garden beds. Jenny's asthma treatments, developed through the Foundation's research program, had proven so successful they were now being tested nationwide. Her herbs grew alongside Emma's carefully tended plants, their growing methods shared with other hospitals. Marcus had found his calling too. Every Saturday he visited Pine Grove with Sarah, his toy medical kit replaced by real supplies as he helped bring comfort to the residents. Mrs. Peterson always said his bandages were even neater than Sarah's now. David, preparing for college, with a Harrison Foundation scholarship, had started a program pairing young athletes with physical therapy patients. The sight of soccer players helping elderly residents exercise had become a regular feature at Pine Grove. James ran the foundation from an office overlooking the garden, Project Oracle's success, funding their expanding programs. But he was different. Now, less the corporate titan, more the engaged father who never missed a soccer game or piano recital. "You know what Mom would say about all this?" Emma asked one evening as both families gathered in the garden. "She'd say sometimes the best gifts come wrapped in storms." Sarah looked at the growing children, the blooming garden, the lives touched by their shared journey. "She'd be proud of you all," she said, "of how you've turned pain into purpose." The foundation had become their shared legacy, not just to Claire's memory, but to the power of unexpected connections. Every day, its walls echoed with stories of healing, of hope, of love's endless capacity to find new ways home. In the garden's quiet heart, beneath the Seattle sky, two families continued growing together, proving that sometimes life's greatest storms lead to its most beautiful blooms. The new family portrait hangs in the foundation's main hall, not a formal studio shot, but a candid moment captured in the herb garden. Emma and Jenny comparing plant samples, David steadying Marcus as he demonstrates a soccer move, James and Sarah sharing a quiet laugh. Behind them, Claire's favorite roses bloom in vibrant life. Beneath the photo, a small plaque reads, "Love," echoes through time finding its way home. And beside it, in a child's careful writing, "Sometimes angels wear scrubs. Sometimes nurses remember angels. Sometimes families find each other in the storm. Life's greatest miracles, after all, often come disguised as ordinary moments of grace."